Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, that was a rather dramatic rendition of this particular bill that's been put forward by the Honourable Ruth Dyson. So I'd like to bring a bit of sanity to this debate, Mr. Speaker. Now, I do wish to remind the former Speaker that he was one of the hard-working members of the Local Government and Environment Select Committee that was able to successfully pass the first round of Resource Management Act reforms last year. And he is correct, his memory does serve him well in the fact that there were quite some work done on designations and the topic was discussed at length. But I think his memory fails him somewhat in terms of perhaps where we got to. So I do want to say, Mr. Speaker, that we recognise that there are some challenges still in the area of requiring authorities that will be addressed in the second phase of the Resource Management Act.
Absolutely.
We do need to make sure that we are able to more efficiently facilitate infrastructure development without compromising environmental outcomes. So this is part of what we're doing in the second phase of work with the Resource Management Act, and that member, Mr Jones, is fully aware of that. He's fully aware of the great work that was done in phase one and the fact that this is so important that we cannot deal with one single piece in isolation. We do need to look at this holistically, and that's where, in terms of the phase one reform that we have undertaken already, we recognise that we didn't want to rush this particular piece of work around requiring authorities. Remember that, Mr Jones?
And we enjoyed this.
We wanted to make sure that we were able to take it further and look at it in phase two, which the Local Government Environment Select Committee is looking forward to. So in terms of this piece of legislation, we won't be supporting this particular member's bill, but I do like to acknowledge Ruth Dyson for bringing one piece of it to our attention this evening. What I do want to say is just to reiterate that improving planning for infrastructure is a key focus of the National Government, Mr Speaker. And the Government's program that we've outlined for economic recovery is dependent on an ambitious program for infrastructure investment, which of course covers roads, which we've heard about, public transport, broadband, electricity grid upgrades, new renewable generation and water infrastructure. Now, the opposition might not sort of realise that some of these things are critical to growing our economy, but at the same time we need to make sure that we do these things in the correct manner. And if I look locally, Mr Speaker, it's projects like these significant infrastructure projects that have actually kept the Taupo economy afloat during these hard times. If you look at whether it's been electricity generators, Mighty River Power or Contact Energy's geothermal developments, and also the East Taupo Arterial and the Taupo Bypass, they are significant projects that we want to keep going. We want to encourage more development into our local economy because that, Mr Speaker, brings jobs into the Taupo area. So it's really important that we get the balance right. That's why there's been a significant amount of work done in the first phase of the Resource Management Act reform, and we will be looking at this issue of requiring authorities in phase two, and that's only a matter of months away, Mr Speaker. It's not a long time as we've seen perhaps in the 9 long years of the Labour government. If this was such a priority, perhaps they would have fixed it back then. But anyway, moving on. So in terms of projects to meet the requirements of a necessity test, for example, the network utility operators would have to demonstrate that the project is the only viable option. And that's not always the case, even if it's considered the best option. So that's why, Mr Speaker, I'm sorry that I can't support the Resource Management Requiring Authorities Amendment Bill.